Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
My name is Saul, 31 years old, and until 6 months ago, I was living my best life teaching English in Seoul. Then I got the news that my beloved grandmother Elaine had passed away, leaving me her beachfront condo in Florida. It was our special place, filled with childhood memories. What I didn't expect was that my sister Amanda would betray me in the worst possible way while I was thousands of miles from home. Before I tell you how I discovered my sister's betrayal while I was on the other side of the world, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and subscribe if you want more stories about family betrayals and how justice eventually finds its way. Growing up in a small town outside of Pittsburgh, my childhood was pretty ordinary until my parents divorced when I was 8 years old. That summer, my mother sent my sister Amanda and me to stay with our grandmother Elaine at her condo in Tampa Bay, Florida. It was supposed to be a temporary arrangement, while our parents sorted out their messy divorce. But those 3 months changed my life forever. Grandma Elaine was unlike any adult I had ever known. She woke up at 5 every morning to walk along the beach, collecting seashells and greeting the fishermen heading out for the day. Her condo wasn't fancy, but had the most spectacular view of the Gulf. Floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room showcased sunsets that looked like they were painted just for us. The balcony wrapped around 2 sides of the unit, offering a perfect spot to drink morning coffee or read books in the afternoon breeze. "Saul," she would say, handing me a fishing rod, "the ocean teaches patience better than any classroom." We would spend hours on the public pier, waiting for fish to bite. I wasn't particularly good at fishing, but I treasured those quiet moments with her. She taught me to clean and cook what we caught, instilling in me an appreciation for simple pleasures. Amanda, who was 10 at the time, showed no interest in these activities. While I was learning to cast a line or identify different seabirds, she would stay inside watching television or complaining about the heat and sand. Grandmother tried to include her, offering to teach her shell crafting or how to make her famous key lime pie, but Amanda always declined. "Why would I want to waste my time making stupid shell necklaces?" she once said, loud enough for grandmother to hear. I saw the hurt in Grandma Elaine's eyes, but she never scolded Amanda for her rudeness. As we grew older, the divide between how we related to our grandmother only widened. I continued spending summers with her throughout high school and college breaks. Amanda visited only when forced by our mother, and her visits became increasingly strained as her materialistic nature developed. By the time Amanda reached her 20s, her visits to grandmother always seemed to coincide with financial needs. She would show up with stories about car troubles, apartment security deposits, or educational opportunities requiring immediate funding. Grandmother, kind as she was, rarely refused, though I could tell she saw through the manipulation. "Your sister views relationships as transactions," grandmother once confided in me during my senior year of college. "I love her dearly, but I worry about the person she's becoming." I understood what she meant. During one particularly uncomfortable Thanksgiving dinner, Amanda spent the entire meal talking about her friend's new luxury SUV, heavily hinting that she needed a vehicle upgrade herself. When grandmother changed the subject to ask about my plans after graduation, Amanda's face darkened with jealousy. "Of course you'd rather talk about Saul's future than help me with my problems," she snapped, storming away from the table. After finishing college with a degree in English literature, I struggled to find purpose. Job opportunities were limited, and nothing sparked my passion. During one of our weekly phone calls, grandmother suggested I consider teaching abroad. "You have your whole life to settle down," she said. "Why not see the world first? Experience different cultures, meet people who see life through different eyes." Her encouragement led me to apply for a teaching position in Seoul. When I was accepted, she was more excited than anyone else. The night before my departure, she called with words that would stay with me. "Saul, exploring the world doesn't mean you're abandoning home. It means you're expanding what home can be." She promised that her condo would always be a place for me to return to whenever I needed grounding. The first year in Seoul transformed me. Teaching English to South Korean business professionals was challenging but rewarding. I made friends from around the world and began to build a life I never imagined possible. Throughout it all, Grandmother and I maintained our connection through weekly video calls. During my second year abroad, grandmother's health began to decline. What started as just a persistent cough was diagnosed as stage 4 lung cancer. I immediately offered to come home, but she refused. Amanda lives only 20 minutes away now, she assured me. She's being very helpful, taking me to appointments and helping around the house. Finish your contract, and we'll reassess when you're done. Our video calls continued, though they grew shorter as her energy waned. In each call, she looked thinner, more frail. Amanda occasionally appeared in the background, and while she seemed attentive to grandmother's needs during these brief glimpses, something about her manner felt performative, especially when she noticed I was watching. In what would be our final video call, grandmother seemed especially tired but insisted on showing me the sunset from her balcony. Her hands shook as she positioned the tablet to capture the brilliant oranges and purples stretching across the sky. "Remember, Saul," she said softly, "some things in life are worth more than money. This view has brought me peace for 30 years. No amount in a bank account could replace that." I didn't know then that these would be her last words to me, or how prophetic they would prove to be. The call came at 3 in the morning, Seoul time. I was deep asleep when my phone's persistent ringing finally penetrated my consciousness. Seeing Amanda's name on the screen immediately sent a chill through me. She never called unless absolutely necessary. "Grandmother passed an hour ago," she said without preamble, her voice flat and emotionless. "The funeral is scheduled for Friday. I've already made all the arrangements." "No, I'm sorry," or "Are you okay?" Just facts delivered like a weather report. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process that grandmother was gone while Amanda continued talking about funeral homes and flower arrangements. "Can you hold the funeral until I can get there?" I asked, already calculating how quickly I could arrange emergency leave and book a flight. "That's not practical," Amanda replied. "The funeral home can only accommodate us on Friday. Besides, your contract doesn't end for another 3 months. It doesn't make sense for you to break it for a 2-hour service." As much as I hated to admit it, there was some truth to her logic. Breaking my contract would have significant financial and professional consequences. My director had already made it clear that emergency leave was limited to immediate family, parents, and children, a rule that felt cruelly arbitrary in that moment. "We'll set up a video link so you can attend virtually," Amanda offered, which seemed like her version of a compromise. The following days passed in a blur of grief and administrative tasks. My Korean friends noticed my distress but didn't quite understand the depth of my loss. The cultural differences in grieving made me feel even more isolated. I found myself wandering to grandmother's favorite foods whenever I passed Korean seafood restaurants, remembering her delight in trying new recipes I described from my adventures abroad. Friday arrived, and I sat alone in my small apartment at midnight, dressed in a black suit, watching my grandmother's funeral unfold through a tablet screen propped on my kitchen table. The funeral home had set up a laptop at the back of the room, giving me a view of the entire service. The attendance was smaller than I expected, just a handful of relatives and neighbors. Amanda stood at the podium delivering a eulogy that sounded like it could have been about anyone. She spoke of grandmother's dedication to family and generous spirit without a single personal anecdote or memory. As she dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue, I noticed her checking her watch twice. Our cousin Thomas approached the screen during the reception afterward, taking the laptop to a quieter corner. "How are you holding up, Saul?" he asked, the first person to actually inquire about my well-being. "Not great," I admitted. "It doesn't feel real from so far away." "Listen," Thomas lowered his voice, glancing over his shoulder. "I don't want to add to your stress, but something feels off with Amanda. She's been talking to a real estate agent who's here. Seems inappropriate for a funeral, right?" Before I could respond, Amanda appeared behind him, taking control of the laptop. "The attorney is ready for the will reading. I need to take this to the conference room." The virtual reading of the will was attended by only immediate family, Amanda, me, and our mother, who sat silently in the corner looking uncomfortable. Walter Thompson, grandmother's attorney for over 20 years, adjusted his glasses as he prepared to read the document. "To my granddaughter Amanda," he read, "I leave my jewelry collection and the sum of $25,000. Amanda's tight smile didn't reach her eyes. "To my grandson Saul," Walter continued. I leave my condominium property at Gulf Breeze Towers, including all furnishings and personal items contained therein. The screen froze momentarily. Whether due to connection issues or Amanda's reaction, I couldn't tell. When the image cleared, Amanda was standing, her face flushed with anger. This has to be a mistake, she said sharply. Saul doesn't even live in the country. What use does he have for a condo in Florida? I'm the one who took care of her. Walter removed his glasses calmly. There's no mistake, Amanda. Your grandmother was very clear about her wishes. She also left a personal letter for each beneficiary, explaining her decisions. He held up an envelope with my name written in grandmother's distinctive handwriting. I'll have this scanned and emailed to you immediately, Saul. An hour later, alone in my apartment with the funeral live stream ended, I opened the email containing grandmother's final words to me. My dearest Saul, if you're reading this, I've moved on to whatever adventure comes next. Don't grieve too long. I've had a wonderful life, especially the parts I shared with you. I'm leaving you my home because you understand what makes it special. It's not the building or the location, though the sunsets are certainly a bonus. It's the memories and the feeling of peace I found there. Amanda sees the condo as a dollar amount, but you see it as what it truly is, a sanctuary. Whether you choose to live there someday, or simply visit occasionally to remember our times together, I know you'll honor the spirit of the place. The property manager, Harold, has all the information you'll need. Remember what I taught you. The most valuable things in life can't be bought or sold. All my love, Grandma Elaine. Tears streamed down my face as I read her words again and again. The next morning, I contacted Harold at the property management company to introduce myself and discuss maintaining the property while I remained in Seoul. He seemed relieved to hear from me. Your grandmother spoke about you often, he said. She was so proud of your adventures in Asia. We'll take good care of the place until you can come see it yourself. I made plans to visit during my summer break, 3 months away. Despite the distance, knowing that grandmother's sanctuary would be waiting for me provided comfort during my darkest moments of grief. I fell asleep each night imagining the sound of waves breaking on the shore below her balcony, planning how I would honor her memory when I finally returned. 6 months after the funeral, my life in Seoul had found a new rhythm. The acute pain of grief had mellowed into a dull ache that flared occasionally when something reminded me of grandmother. My teaching contract was going well, and I'd even started dating a fellow expatriate named Jasmine who taught at a neighboring school. Summer break was approaching, and with it, my planned trip to Florida. I had already booked my flight and arranged for 3 weeks off. Every night, I would fall asleep thinking about walking on grandmother's beach, sorting through her belongings, and connecting with the pieces of her life she had entrusted to me. I even made a detailed list of items I remembered from childhood that I hoped to find. Her collection of hand-painted seashells, the worn recipe book containing her famous key lime pie instructions, and the fishing rod we had used together. Then came the email that shattered everything. It arrived on a Tuesday morning as I was preparing for class. The subject line from Gulf Breeze Property Management read, Termination of services. Account closure. Assuming it was some administrative matter requiring my attention, I opened it without concern. Dear Mr. Walker, this letter serves as confirmation that Gulf Breeze Property Management has terminated all services for Unit 1507 at Gulf Breeze Towers as of April 15th, following the property's sale and transfer of ownership. All security deposits and maintenance reserves have been forwarded to the new ownership as specified in closing documents. For any future inquiries regarding the property, please contact Sunshine Coast Realty at the information below. We wish you well in your future endeavors. Regards, Harold Jenkins, Gulf Breeze Property Management. I stared at the screen, reading and rereading the message, certain there had been some mistake. Sale? New ownership? This couldn't be right. I immediately tried calling Harold, but with the 12-hour time difference, I reached only voicemail. My hands trembled as I typed a response. Harold, there must be a mistake. I did not sell the condo. Please call me as soon as possible, regardless of the hour. I barely made it through my morning classes, checking my phone compulsively between lessons. During lunch break, I tried calling Amanda, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I left an urgent message asking her to call me back immediately. With growing desperation, I searched online for information about Gulf Breeze Towers. There, on a real estate website, I found it. Unit 1507, listed as sold for $480,000. The listing included photos of grandmother's condo, her furniture, her view, her home. The sale date was exactly 3 months after her funeral. My stomach lurched as a terrible suspicion formed. I called Walter Thompson's office, calculating it would be mid-morning in Florida. "I'm sorry. Mr. Thompson is in court today," his assistant informed me. "Can I take a message?" "This is extremely urgent," I insisted, hearing the panic in my own voice. "It's about my grandmother, Elaine Walker's condo. I believe it's been fraudulently sold." There was a pause on the line. "Let me see if I can reach Mr. Thompson during his court recess. He should be available in about 2 hours. Those 2 hours were the longest of my life. I canceled my afternoon classes, claiming illness. Back in my apartment, I scoured social media for clues and found what I was looking for on Amanda's Instagram account. Photos, posted over the past 3 months, showed her on a luxury cruise in the Caribbean, posing in front of a brand new BMW, and shopping at high-end stores. The captions made vague references to new beginnings, and finally getting what I deserve. In one particularly infuriating post dated just after the property sale, she posed with champagne, writing, "Home is wherever I choose to make it." When Walter Thompson finally called, I was nearly hysterical. "Saul, slow down," he said after my breathless explanation. "What you're describing is extremely serious. I need you to email me whatever documentation you've received from the property management company." "How could this happen?" I demanded. "The condo was legally mine. How could it be sold without my knowledge or consent?" "That's what we need to determine," Walter replied gravely. "From what you're describing, it sounds like someone may have forged documents or misrepresented themselves as having authority to sell the property. Let me investigate and get back to you." As I waited for Walter's findings, I received a text from Amanda that chilled me to the bone. "We need to talk. Call me." When I called, her voice was casual, almost bored. "So you found out about the condo? Took you long enough." "Amanda, what did you do?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I did what grandmother really wanted," she replied coolly. "She never intended for that place to sit empty while you played teacher in Korea. She would have wanted the money to benefit the family. That's not your decision to make. The condo was left to me, not you." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "What were you going to do with it? Visit for 2 weeks a year? Meanwhile, I'm here struggling to make ends meet after spending years taking care of her. Do you know how many doctor's appointments I drove her to? How many medications I managed?" My anger flared. "That was your choice, and it doesn't give you the right to steal from me. How did you even do it? The deed was in my name." There was a slight pause before Amanda replied. "Let's just say I took care of the paperwork. No one questioned it since you were obviously too busy with your exotic life abroad to handle things yourself." "This is fraud, Amanda. It's a crime." Her laugh was sharp. "Good luck proving anything from Seoul. Besides, the money's already been spent. The condo's already been sold to a nice family. Are you really going to try to kick them out? Because that's what would happen if you pursued this. You won't get away with this, I promised." "I already have," she replied before hanging up. I sat in stunned silence, the magnitude of her betrayal washing over me. More than the money, it was the loss of grandmother's sanctuary that cut deepest, too. The place where we had shared so many precious moments, the physical connection to her memory. Through tears of rage and grief, I made a promise to myself and to grandmother's memory. This wasn't over. The 16 hours following Amanda's call were a storm of emotions: shock, betrayal, rage, and beneath it all, a profound sense of loss. I hadn't just lost property. I'd lost my final connection to grandmother. Sleep was impossible. Instead, I paced my small Seoul apartment, replaying Amanda's dismissive words and calculating what options I had from thousands of miles away. By morning, Walter Thompson had emailed me confirmation of my worst fears. The condo had indeed been sold through what appeared to be fraudulent means. According to county records, he wrote, The sale was processed using a power of attorney document purportedly signed by you, granting Amanda authority to manage and sell the property on your behalf. I've obtained a copy of this document, and even to my untrained eye, the signature doesn't match the ones I have on file for you from your grandmother's will processing. He attached the power of attorney document, and seeing the crude approximation of my signature sent a wave of nausea through me. Amanda hadn't even tried to make it convincing. With this evidence in hand, I called Amanda again. This time, she answered with an exaggerated sigh. "What now, Saul?" "I'm busy." "I've seen the forged power of attorney," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Walter has a copy too. We both know that's not my signature." There was a brief pause before Amanda replied, her tone shifting from annoyed to defensive. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. Grandmother wanted me to have financial security. She just didn't have the courage to tell you directly." "That's a lie," I countered. "She explicitly stated her wishes in her will and in her letter to me. You had no right to take what she wanted me to have." "What she wanted?" Amanda's voice rose sharply. "How would you know what she wanted? You weren't even here. You were off living your exciting life in Korea, while I was changing her bedpans and driving her to chemotherapy appointments. Where were you when she needed someone physically present?" Her words struck a nerve, triggering the guilt I'd been carrying since grandmother's death. Had I abandoned my responsibility by staying abroad during her final months? Amanda, sensing her advantage, pressed on. "The condo was wasted on you. You weren't going to live there. You weren't going to visit more than once a year. Meanwhile, I'm struggling to pay rent 15 minutes away. How is that fair?" "It's not about fair," I argued. "It's about respecting grandmother's wishes and the law. You committed fraud, Amanda. That's a criminal offense." She laughed, but I detected a note of nervousness beneath the bravado. "Good luck proving anything from halfway around the world. No one's going to take the case of some expatriate teacher seriously, especially against a local resident who was the primary caregiver." "I'll hire a lawyer," I threatened. "With what money?" she shot back. "Teaching English in Seoul hardly makes you rich. Meanwhile, I've got access to funds for the best defense attorney in Tampa if needed. Face it, Saul, you're outmatched. Just move on and forget about the condo." "This isn't just about the condo," I said, my voice breaking despite my efforts to remain composed. "It's about what grandmother wanted. It's about the memories that place holds." "Memories don't pay bills," Amanda replied coldly. "Grow up, Saul. This is the real world. People look out for themselves." "Is that what you told yourself while forging my signature? While betraying your own brother?" "Don't be so dramatic. I did what I had to do." "And what about the money?" I asked. $480,000. Where is it now?" "That's none of your business," she snapped. "But if you must know, I've invested it in my future. Something grandmother would have supported if she wasn't so fixated on playing favorites with you." "I'm going to fight this," I promised. "Whatever it takes." Her voice hardened. "Then you're an even bigger fool than I thought. If you pursue this, I'll make sure everyone knows you abandoned grandmother when she needed you most. How do you think that will play with the extended family? With the courts? Drop this, Saul. For your own good." The threat hung in the air before she ended the call. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, as if waiting for more of her venom. When I finally set the phone down, my hands were shaking with a mixture of rage and determination. That night, I barely slept. Nightmares of grandmother's condo being dismantled, her treasured possessions discarded, her sanctuary violated, jolted me awake repeatedly. By morning, the fog of shock had lifted, replaced by crystal clarity. I wouldn't let Amanda erase grandmother's final gift to me. I couldn't bring grandmother back, but I could honor her wishes and hold Amanda accountable for her betrayal. With dawn breaking over Seoul's skyline, I made a decision. This wasn't just about reclaiming property or money. This was about justice, about standing up against the manipulation and cruelty that Amanda had wielded so carelessly. Despite the distance, despite the challenges, I would fight. I opened my laptop and began researching international property fraud cases, taking detailed notes on precedents and procedures. Next, I compiled every piece of evidence I had: emails from the property management company, screenshots of Amanda's social media posts, showing her sudden wealth, the forged power of attorney document. The odds seemed stacked against me. I was thousands of miles away, with limited financial resources, against a sister who had local presence and access to the fraudulently obtained funds. But I had something stronger on my side: the truth and the determination to see justice done, no matter how long it took. The morning after my confrontation with Amanda, I woke with a sense of purpose that cut through the fog of betrayal and anger. My first step was finding legal representation, but as a foreigner living abroad with a case in Florida, I faced significant challenges. After several discouraged responses from attorneys unwilling to take an international client, a Korean colleague suggested I consult with Lincoln Park, an American lawyer who specialized in overseas property disputes at an international firm with an office in Seoul. I secured an appointment for that evening and spent the day meticulously organizing every scrap of evidence: emails from Harold, the forged power of attorney document Walter had sent, screenshots of Amanda's lavish purchases, and grandmother's letter explaining why she left the condo to me. Lincoln's office was in a sleek high-rise in Gangnam. Despite my teacher's salary barely covering my basic expenses, I knew this consultation would be worth the cost. Lincoln, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, listened intently as I explained the situation. "This is quite the family drama," he said when I finished. "But fortunately for you, your sister made some crucial mistakes." "What do you mean?" I asked, hope flickering for the first time in days. "First, forgery is relatively easy to prove with signature analysis. Second, the paper trail of her sudden wealth immediately following the fraudulent sale creates a compelling narrative. Third, she seems to have been rather brazen about the whole thing, flaunting her new lifestyle on social media, not covering her tracks." He tapped his pen thoughtfully against his legal pad. "However, pursuing this case from overseas presents unique challenges. We'll need someone on the ground in Florida to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and represent your interests locally. I can't afford to hire multiple lawyers," I admitted. "Let's approach this strategically," Lincoln suggested. "I'll act as your primary counsel, but we'll engage a private investigator in Tampa to collect evidence. It's more cost-effective than having a Florida attorney handle everything." By the end of our meeting, we had developed a plan. Lincoln would handle the international aspects and legal strategy, while Jackson Monroe, a private investigator in Tampa with experience in property fraud cases, would gather local evidence. Within a week, Jackson began sending reports that exceeded my expectations. He discovered that Amanda had not only forged my signature, but had also misrepresented herself to the title company as having my full authorization to handle the sale. He interviewed neighbors who confirmed they'd seen Amanda clearing out items from the condo before the sale: family photographs, artwork, and small furnishings that held sentimental value. Most damning of all, Jackson found the notary who had processed the fraudulent power of attorney document. The young notary admitted she hadn't properly verified identification, taking Amanda's word that she was authorized to sign on my behalf during my extended illness, another lie Amanda had fabricated. Meanwhile, Walter Thompson had begun his own investigation, feeling partially responsible for not detecting the fraud sooner. He provided Lincoln with original copies of my actual signature from grandmother's will proceedings, which starkly contrasted with the forgery. "Your sister didn't even try to match your signature correctly," Walter told me during a video call, shaking his head. "It's as if she thought no one would check or care." The level of arrogance is astounding. Walter also discovered that Amanda had accessed grandmother's email account after her death, intercepting communications from the property management company that were intended for me. She had effectively created an information blockade, ensuring I remained unaware of what was happening with the condo until the sale was complete and the money secured. With each piece of evidence, our case strengthened. Lincoln prepared documentation for filing civil charges of fraud, forgery, and conversion of property. Walter, now fully committed to rectifying the situation, worked with local authorities to explore potential criminal charges. Throughout this process, I continued teaching, though my students undoubtedly noticed my distraction. Jasmine, my girlfriend, became my emotional anchor, listening to my frustrated rants and reminding me to eat when I became too absorbed in case details. "Remember why you're doing this," she would say. "It's not just about the money or even the property. It's about honoring your grandmother's wishes." Her words resonated deeply. When exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me, or when the legal complexities seemed insurmountable, I would reread grandmother's letter, reconnecting with her wisdom and love. In those moments, I could almost hear her voice urging me forward, reminding me that some battles are worth fighting, regardless of their difficulty. 2 months into our legal preparations, Jackson made a breakthrough that shifted the case dramatically in our favor. He located the real estate agent who had handled the condo sale, and, through careful conversation, learned that she had felt uneasy about certain aspects of the transaction. "Amanda was pushy about completing the sale quickly," Jackson reported. "The agent thought it was odd that the owner's brother was nowhere to be seen, especially given the property's significant value. She raised concerns, but Amanda produced the power of attorney and insisted everything was above board. Most significantly, the agent had saved all correspondence with Amanda, including emails where Amanda explicitly claimed to be acting on my behalf with my full knowledge and consent, written evidence of her deliberate misrepresentation. Armed with this growing mountain of evidence, Lincoln filed for a temporary injunction to freeze the proceeds from the condo sale that remained in Amanda's accounts. The Florida court granted our request, citing the substantial and compelling evidence of fraudulent activity. When Amanda discovered her accounts were frozen, her carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Her frantic voicemail reached me as I was preparing for bed. "What have you done?" she hissed. "My accounts are locked. I can't access my money. You had no right." I didn't respond immediately, taking Lincoln's advice to minimize direct communication that could potentially be used against us. When Amanda called again the next morning, her tone had shifted from angry to desperate. "Saul, we need to talk about this. I've already spent half the money. It's gone. I can't pay it back even if I wanted to." "Then you should have thought about that before stealing from me," I replied calmly. "It wasn't stealing. It was redistributing what grandmother should have divided fairly in the first place. That's for the courts to decide now," I said, ending the call. As our case built momentum, I found myself reflecting on grandmother's final letter to me. "The most valuable things in life can't be bought or sold," she had written. In pursuing justice, I wasn't just fighting for a property or money. I was standing up for those intangible values she had instilled in me: honesty, integrity, and respect for others' wishes. With the court date approaching, and my summer break still 2 months away, Lincoln arranged for me to provide testimony via video conference for the initial hearings. Our strategy was taking shape, our evidence was compelling, and for the first time since discovering the betrayal, I began to believe that justice might actually be possible, even from 5,000 miles away. As legal proceedings intensified, the strain began taking its toll on my daily life. Dark circles took up permanent residence under my eyes, and my normally enthusiastic teaching style became mechanical. My Korean students, too polite to complain directly, started leaving anonymous feedback about my distracted mind and absent spirit. Jasmine suggested I take personal leave, but I refused. Work was the only thing keeping me tethered to normalcy. Meanwhile, our legal team continued building an airtight case. Jackson Monroe had uncovered additional witnesses who could testify about Amanda's suspicious behavior around the time of the sale. The locksmith who changed the condo locks remembered Amanda specifically instructing him to complete the work before my brother returns from overseas. The mail carrier recalled Amanda intercepting deliveries addressed to me. Each account added another brick to the wall of evidence against her. Walter Thompson filed the formal complaint with the Florida court, requesting not only the return of the property, or its monetary equivalent, but additional damages for emotional distress and attorney fees. The court date was set for August 15th, perfectly timed with my summer break, allowing me to appear in person. 3 weeks before I was scheduled to fly to Florida, the temporary injunction freezing Amanda's assets was expanded to include her new vehicle and other major purchases. After the financial forensics team traced the source of funds directly to the condo sale, Amanda's panic reached new heights. Her calls became increasingly erratic, alternating between tearful pleas and vicious threats. I maintained minimal contact, forwarding each voicemail and text to Lincoln as additional evidence of her unstable behavior. She's realizing the severity of her situation, Lincoln explained during our weekly update. The criminal implications are likely setting in. Forgery and fraud of this magnitude carry potential jail time, not just civil penalties. Then came the call that changed everything. It was Wednesday evening in Seoul, making it early Wednesday morning in Florida. I was grading papers when my phone rang, displaying Amanda's number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello, Amanda." "Hey there, little brother." Her voice was artificially cheerful, almost slurred. I suspected she'd been drinking. Just wanted to give you a quick update on my fabulous life. "Amanda, I don't think... I bought a new car yesterday," she continued, ignoring my interruption. "A Jaguar F-Type. $60,000. Drives like a dream." My stomach clenched. "The court froze your assets. How did you purchase a car?" She laughed, the sound brittle and hollow. "I have my ways. Not all the money was in those accounts, you know. I'm smarter than you think. This isn't a game, Amanda. You're making things worse for yourself." "Oh, please. Nothing's going to happen to me. You know why? Because you're all talk. You're 5,000 miles away playing teacher while I'm here, enjoying the money that should have been mine all along." Something in her smug certainty ignited a cold anger in me. For months, I'd been restraining myself, following Lincoln's advice to remain professional and detached. But hearing her boast about continuing to spend what she had stolen, it was too much. "Let me tell you exactly what's happening, Amanda," I said, my voice steady. "Jackson Monroe has been building a case against you for the past 3 months. He's interviewed 12 witnesses who can testify to your fraudulent activities." "Who the hell is Jackson Monroe?" The confidence in her voice wavered slightly. "A private investigator who's been documenting your every move since April. He has statements from the notary who admits she didn't properly verify identity before notarizing the forged power of attorney. He has emails from the real estate agent where you explicitly claim to be acting with my full knowledge and consent." Silence on the line. I continued. "Walter has signature experts ready to testify that the power of attorney document contains a forgery that doesn't even closely resemble my actual signature. The district attorney is reviewing the case for potential criminal charges: forgery, fraud, and grand theft." "You're bluffing," she whispered, but uncertainty had crept into her voice. "The locksmith you hired remembers you specifically mentioning the need to change locks before my brother returns from overseas. Your social media posts showing purchases immediately after the sale have been archived as evidence of motive and consciousness of guilt. The prosecutor thinks it's an exceptionally clear-cut case." The sound of Amanda's breathing grew heavier. "Tomorrow morning, your new Jaguar will be added to the asset freeze. Any attempt to hide or transfer additional funds will add money laundering to the charges. Your bank records have been subpoenaed, showing large cash withdrawals after the condo sale, withdrawals you'll need to account for." "Stop it," she said, her voice small. "The buyers of the condo have been interviewed. They're innocent parties in all this, but they've provided copies of all communications where you represented yourself as having legal authority to sell. Each document, each email strengthens the case against you. Saul, the court date is set for August 15th. I'll be there in person. Lincoln expects it to be open and shut given the mountain of evidence. Florida takes property fraud very seriously, Amanda. The criminal penalties alone." "I didn't think you'd find out," she blurted, her composed facade finally crumbling. "You were supposed to be in Korea for at least another year. By then, everything would have been settled, the money spent. There wouldn't have been anything to recover." The admission hung in the air between us. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I heard something I never expected. Amanda crying, not the performative tears she'd used to manipulate grandmother, but genuine broken sobs. "What am I going to do?" she whispered. "I can't go to jail. I can't pay back the money. Most of it's gone." For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, remembering the little girl who had once been my sister before greed and resentment transformed her. Then I remembered grandmother's sanctuary, sold without regard for her wishes or my feelings, and my resolve hardened. "You should have thought about consequences before committing fraud," I said quietly. Talk to a lawyer, Amanda. You're going to need one. The line went silent for so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, in a voice barely audible, she asked, "Is there any way to fix this? To make it go away?" "That's not up to me anymore," I replied truthfully. "The legal process has begun. The evidence exists. The courts will decide." "I didn't think it through," she admitted. "I just saw the opportunity and took it. I convinced myself you didn't deserve the condo, that grandmother had made a mistake. It wasn't your decision to make. I know that now." Another long pause. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not that you'll believe me." She was right. I didn't believe her. Her remorse seemed born of consequences, not conscience. "Goodbye, Amanda," I said, ending the call. I sat in silence afterward, emotions churning. The confrontation had provided no satisfaction, no relief from the ache of betrayal. Instead, I felt hollow, drained by the knowledge that whatever happened next, our sibling relationship was irreparably damaged. Even if the legal battle ended in my favor, we had both lost something that could never be recovered. That night, I dreamed of grandmother's condo, not as it appeared in the real estate listings, staged and impersonal, but as I remembered it, the shell collection arranged on the windowsill, the faded quilt draped over her favorite reading chair, the scent of key lime pie drifting from the kitchen. In the dream, grandmother stood on the balcony, watching the sunset. When she turned to me, her smile was sad but knowing, as if to say that some losses reveal painful truths we need to see. I woke with tears on my face, but clarity in my heart. The legal battle wasn't just about property or money. It was about standing firm against injustice, even when it came from someone who should have been trustworthy. It was about honoring grandmother's final wishes and the values she had lived by. The journey was far from over, but the turning point had come. Amanda now understood the full consequences of her actions. Justice, long delayed by distance and deception, was finally within reach. The Florida courtroom felt surreally unfamiliar, yet intimately significant, as I entered on that humid August morning. After months of fighting from across the world, I was finally present in person for the culmination of our case. Lincoln walked beside me, his confident stride reassuring. Walter Thompson waited for us at the plaintiff's table, his familiar face a welcome sight after years of only seeing him through video calls. Amanda arrived with her attorney, a stern-looking woman in an expensive suit. My sister's appearance shocked me. She had lost weight, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. When our gazes met, she quickly looked away, shoulders hunching as if to make herself smaller. The proceedings moved more swiftly than I'd anticipated. With the overwhelming evidence Jackson had collected, coupled with Amanda's damning admission during our phone call, which Lincoln had wisely recorded with my consent, permissible under Florida's two-party consent law, her attorney advised her to seek a settlement rather than face a full trial. Judge Eleanor Martinez reviewed the proposed settlement terms, occasionally looking up to study Amanda's face or mine. The final agreement required Amanda to repay the full $480,000 from the condo sale, plus an additional $50,000 in damages for emotional distress and legal fees. "Miss Walker," Judge Martinez addressed Amanda directly, "given that you've testified much of the money has already been spent, how do you propose to satisfy this judgment?" Amanda's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client has agreed to liquidate all assets purchased with the proceeds, including her vehicle and jewelry collection. She will also commit to a structured repayment plan for the remaining balance, secured by a lien against her future earnings." Judge Martinez nodded, then turned to me. "Mr. Walker, are these terms acceptable to you?" I glanced at Lincoln, who gave a slight nod. "Yes, Your Honor," I replied, "with one additional condition." "And that would be?" "I'd like the court to officially recognize that the sale of the property was fraudulent, making it null and void." This request complicated matters considerably. The innocent buyers who had purchased the condo were now living there, having done nothing wrong. Judge Martinez removed her glasses, considering the situation. "That presents a problem of equity," she noted. "The current occupants purchased the property in good faith. To void the sale would create a new injustice." "I understand, Your Honor," I said, having anticipated this objection. "I'm not seeking to evict the current residents. Rather, I'm asking for legal recognition that the sale itself was invalid, which would strengthen potential criminal charges and prevent my sister from benefiting from any future claims related to the property. After conferring with both legal teams, a compromise was reached. The sale would be officially declared fraudulent in court records, but with provisions protecting the innocent buyer's right to remain in the property. In exchange, I would receive the full market value plus damages, and Amanda would face the consequences of her actions without displacing the family who had unwittingly purchased stolen property. As for criminal charges, the district attorney had agreed to suspend prosecution if Amanda completed community service, underwent financial counseling, and adhered strictly to the repayment plan, a lenient outcome that privately relieved me, despite everything. I didn't want to see my sister in prison, regardless of her betrayal. When the gavel fell, finalizing the judgment, I expected to feel triumphant. Instead, a complex mixture of emotions washed over me. Relief that justice had been served, sadness for what our family relationship had become, and a lingering sense of loss for grandmother's sanctuary that could never truly be replaced. Amanda approached me as we exited the courtroom, her attorney hovering protectively nearby. "I know you probably hate me," she began, her voice barely audible. "I don't hate you, Amanda," I replied honestly. "I'm disappointed and hurt, but hate requires energy I'm not willing to spend anymore." She nodded, eyes downcast. "I didn't think about what the condo meant to you. I only saw dollar signs. That's why grandmother left it to me in the first place," I said. "She knew I valued the memories more than the money. She was right about both of us." Amanda's admission surprised me with its self-awareness. "I'm going to pay back every cent, Saul. It will take time, but I'll do it." "I believe you," I said, though I wasn't entirely sure I did. "And the things I took from the condo before selling it, grandmother's recipe book, the shell collection, some photo albums, they're in storage. They're yours. I'll have them delivered to Walter's office." This unexpected gesture touched me more deeply than I could express. Those irreplaceable items contained the essence of my memories with grandmother, something no monetary settlement could restore. "Thank you," I managed, my throat tight with emotion. With the legal battle resolved, I spent my remaining time in Florida, collecting grandmother's personal effects from storage and visiting her favorite places, the pier where we'd fished, the beach where we'd collected shells, the small cafe where she'd introduced me to key lime pie. At each location, I felt her presence, not as a ghost, but as the accumulated wisdom and love she had poured into our relationship. Before returning to Seoul, I made one final visit to the condo, having arranged this with the new owners through Walter. Standing on the familiar balcony, watching the sunset paint the gulf in shades of orange and purple, I remembered grandmother's words. "Some things in life are worth more than money." She had been right. The view remained breathtaking, but what made it truly valuable were the memories attached to it, memories I carried within me, regardless of who owned the physical space. Back in Seoul, I resumed teaching with renewed focus. The settlement money remained largely untouched in an investment account, except for a portion I used to establish a small scholarship in grandmother's name at the local community college, where she had taken painting classes in her retirement years. In the months that followed, Amanda stayed true to her word, making regular payments according to the settlement terms. Our communication remained minimal but civil, neither of us ready for reconciliation, but both acknowledging that the worst was behind us. The experience had changed me. I became more assertive in standing up for what was right, more aware of the importance of clear documentation, and paradoxically, more appreciative of the intangible legacies that can't be stolen or sold. Grandmother had given me far more than a condo. She had given me values, memories, and eventually, the strength to defend them. During my last video call with Walter to finalize some paperwork, he shared a thought that stayed with me. "Your grandmother would be proud of how you handled this, Saul," he said. "Not just the legal victory, but the way you remained principled throughout. You fought for justice without seeking vengeance." His words affirmed what I had come to realize. In honoring grandmother's wishes, I had also honored the person she had raised me to be. 1 year after the court case, I received an unexpected package from Amanda. Inside was grandmother's worn fishing rod, the one we had used together on the pier so many times, along with a simple note, "Found this in my attic. Thought you should have it." I displayed the rod prominently in my sole apartment, a tangible reminder that even in the aftermath of betrayal, healing remains possible. Not all relationships can or should be restored to what they once were, but with time and effort, new understandings can emerge from broken trust. Grandmother's final gift wasn't just the condo or its monetary value. It was the lesson that standing up for what's right, even against family, is sometimes the most loving choice we can make. That true inheritance isn't measured in property or possessions, but in the values we choose to embody and the memories we choose to honor. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have pursued legal action against a sibling who betrayed you, or found another way to resolve the conflict? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about family challenges and the path to healing. And remember, sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't what's written in a will, but the wisdom passed from one generation to the next. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find strength in your own family journeys.